Hello, dear friends. It's Carly. Welcome to another episode of the I Learned podcast. Hello, how are you? This is a come as you are space. I hope you know that. Um, yeah, there's a reason I felt like making a podcast episode today instead of a video. Let's start there. Yay for having multiple creative outlets that, like, even when you are really mostly dominantly in the mood to be like by yourself. Um, I don't know, there's something about being on video that, like, yeah, now you're presenting yourself like to others. Like, oh boy, that's like a whole head trip on top of just record a podcast. Just sit on your bed in your undies and make a podcast. Nobody knows. They'll never know. Just don't tell them. No big deal. So yeah, it's a come as you are space. I hope you're comfy. I'm very comfy. I have no idea, not a single clue what I want to talk about. That's not true. Actually, I have about 4 million clues. That's kind of the problem. Um, yeah, it's like it's reminding me of when I first started, like the vibe of before I started even of my first initial worry was I'm going to run out of content ideas. That was my first hurdle that I had to grow to get over that. And I did that by brainstorming a bunch of ideas. And when I had about 150, I felt like, okay, I'm ready to start this podcast. Let's rock and roll. And I did. And that kicked that off. And same with the YouTube channel. Like once I had a pile and I felt like, okay, I got enough content, like I'm ready to go. But then once you got that going on, like I'm very much back on the other side, like once again, looping, spiraling around like your growth journey, brought to you by Carly today. Yeah, right now I'm on the side of like kind of being overwhelmed, I guess, at the amount of inspiration that I feel and like kind of like going down that thought trail of there's just not enough time. There's just not enough hours in the day. I don't have enough time. And it's like I've got nothing but time. I'm like 24/7 free as a bird. Like what am I talking about that there's not enough time? Like this is proof in my mind, like literal proof that our sense of time is very warped. It's like you could, same as like money, like you could have a boatload of money and then you need more than that, and all of a sudden the pile that you had looks small. And it's the same thing with time. It's like I'm free 24/7. I don't ever have to report for duty. I don't work a schedule. Like, I mean, the closest thing I have to that is once a week, Friday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time. I live stream astrology and coffee, and I haven't missed a Friday in like 26 Fridays. So that's pretty cool. And I love that streak. But that is the one time per week that I show up a place on time on a schedule. Otherwise, like, I'm free to use my time however I feel like using it in the moment. And it's fascinating because here I am this morning, like, still very much resonating as I don't have enough. I don't have enough time. And, like, that is such a perfect example of, like, the way that this physical reality works. It's like no matter how much you manifest in the physical reality, it will never be enough for you because we can just increase your inspiration. We can just like make you want more time than what is physically possible. You can do a lot to like learn how to use your time more efficiently, and I've done a lot of that. I've done a lot of thinking really critically about where I'm spending my very precious energy and time. I stopped giving it to energy leaks, little bits here and there along the way, like altered various relationships because this exchange is more of a drain than it is a benefit. And it's like at that point, I'm already sitting over here like I wish I had more time, and now I'm giving it to you and not getting anything in return. What am I doing? What kind of choice am I making? Right? Because like we're responsible. We're responsible for our enjoyment of our experience. And I talk about this stuff all the time, and here I am this morning thinking, gosh, I wish I had more time. I wish there was just more time in the day. I wish I got to do more stuff. And this moment of basically disillusionment that I'm having is like it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. So like you can spend as long as you want. This is my higher self like telling me this. Like you can like run around on that treadmill as long as you want. Of I wish I had more. I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. You can wish that wish with every thought in your head for the rest of your life if you want. That's your choice. But it isn't gonna be like that. It's that's not part of what you have control over. And the sooner we let go of wishing for things that we don't have control over, get back on the side of like investing your thoughtful energy, your wishes into things that are 100% within your control. You know, how I choose to spend my time, the finite amount of time that I have, who I choose to give it to, who I choose to invest it in. That is my choice 100% of the time. No matter what anybody asks of me or says to me or guilt trip that they want to put on there or disappointments that they may have to feel along the way, like basically boundaries is what we're talking about. Like, because there's only 24 hours in the day, because we're on this like finite time space reality where we are on a train that only goes forward. It doesn't stop, it doesn't repeat, it only moves forward. There's only right this moment and the next moment, the next one after that. We don't get to go back, and we don't have power in the future because the future isn't here yet. So, like, in our right now moment is where we have all of our power. If you've ever heard anybody say that, right? This is what they're talking about. They mean you have the power to choose in your right now moment what you're going to cultivate more of in your life. And I was just listening to this video. I'll link it in the description because it was amazing. I definitely went and followed her YouTube channel, and I'm going to listen to a lot more of her stuff because, like, oh, just the vibration of it, like, it felt so good to listen to her perspective on things. Um, but she was, lost my train of thought a little bit. Let's see what we got here. I was listening to that podcast. Oh, and essentially, they were talking about, like that there are dual realities happening here on planet Earth right now. Like there is the old Earth, the current reality, quote unquote, that most people like mainstream would be talking about. This is our current reality. That's the old Earth. That's like the old paradigm that is basically crumbling, is what we're witnessing right now within that old Earth 3D realm. The foundation is bad. It's rotten and toxic, and that shit is falling apart. Meanwhile, also on planet Earth, we have this whole other dimension that, like, she talked about it as a double grid. That, like, we're all existing on the same planet, but there are two very different realities happening here. Where if you will claim these higher frequencies of love and hope and inspiration and appreciation, and you will circle those energies over and over and over again on purpose, you will hold that energy within yourself. Basically, you become a match to this other version of reality. This, they call it 5D version of reality. They call it the new earth. They call it, the Aquarian age. We're moving into like a new human is being born. Like they call it all kinds of things, all kinds of shit. They talk about it in all different ways, which I think is ultimately helpful because everybody's going to hear it in their own unique way. And this video that I just listened to, it was like, wow, I can really hear this as far as like they're talking about this evolution of basically the human species. That it's it's essentially like, yes, that old earth paradigm is crumbling. It is like the Titanic. It's sinking. It's closing in on itself, imploding because it's hollow, because yeah, anyways. You guys know. You can see what's going on in the world right now. It's imploding, and it's like the evolution, the what this is inspiring is how you're going to cope with that, how you're going to heal from that, how you're going to like transcend that, is to recognize that while you may not have any power over all kinds of awful things that are going on the planet, you do. Hear me, you do. And again, this is my higher self talking to me. You do have power in this moment to decide how you want to feel about what's going on in your experience. And a very real example is to go full circle with where I started, as far as like this morning, feeling like I don't have enough time. I wish I had more time. I don't know if you can feel like the longing in that, the feeling like I'm getting a worse deal than I wish I was. And it's like, I mean, there is no worse deal. It's just the same deal that everybody else is getting. Like there's 24 hours in the day. I understand sometimes it may look like other people have a different deal, like if you're not just talking about time, where we clearly all have the same amount. But yeah, so anyways, time's a good example for this conversation. It definitely simplifies things. But it's like we get to choose, like I'm getting to choose in this moment, and I'm choosing to make a podcast out of it because it feels really profound for me to realize this, and I want to capture it for when I, almost inevitably will forget here in the next weeks or months or whatever. And then I'll come back to this little message and I'll be like, oh yeah, remember when I knew that stuff? Cool. Let me see if I can call it back forward. Usually it's pretty helpful. So that's good. So I'm commemorating this knowledge with this episode for myself and others. And yeah, it's like how I can look at this, the elevated, like 5D evolved perspective of the exact same realization, the exact same awareness of all I'm sensing in that limitation of time is how my massive inspiration has overtaken the physical time resources that I have to spend. That's the like clarity, the objective reality of the situation. That's what it is. And then I get to feel about it however I want, depending on, and it will depend on the meaning that I make out of that situation. So when earlier I'm taking from it, gosh, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more time. Like I'm sensing that there's so much more I want to do, and I wish I had more time. And on the exact flip side of that is I'm so freaking grateful for this like overwhelming amount of inspiration. Like I have the maximum amount of time free for what I want to do, and I have no shortage of inspiring, soul feeding activities and engagements that I can partake in at any time that I choose to help me feel more alive by channeling that energy and creating whatever it is that I'm called to create. Like, I have no shortage of inspiration. I'm so grateful. I have backlogs of inspiration, man. Inspiration for days. Like, I'm chuckling at my old self who used to be scared that she would run out of content. Oh my goodness, no. If you continue to evolve, if you continue to learn, if you continue to grow along your spiritual path, like you will literally never run out of content because like I feel like I the content itself is only a reflection of my evolution. So the fear of running out as I see it now like doesn't really make any sense. And yet back then when I was in the middle of that, when I hadn't started yet, it seemed so logical that one of the main problems that I could face is what if I run out of ideas and then I stall out because I don't know what I want to talk about. And I mean like I definitely sat in that stagnant, I'm gonna say, like because I just looped around that fear of like what if I run out of ideas. I stayed there for quite a while, a long time, year, couple years maybe. And eventually, like I said, like kind of the floodgates opened and I brainstormed the ideas. And even getting the idea to brainstorm the ideas was like part of my own readiness to be shown that I really do have enough to start. And the bigger picture takeaway, from like now having been podcasting for like a year and a half, is for the whole entire time, I have been so much more on this side of like overwhelmed by my inspiration. Like there's never enough episodes, there's never enough videos. There's always more that you want to say, that you want to communicate. And it's like to be grateful, to look back at where I was 18 months ago, like hadn't started yet, was still in that phase of can I really do this? And to look at her now and be so proud of her for starting, for one thing, um, but also to like really pat myself on the back for like coming that far and being able to, one, not only like overcome that initial fear of what if I fail, am I really going to start? Because what if I fail? It's like, yeah, but if you don't start, you guaranteed not have any success. So, okay, cool. So we started, that's good. And then to almost immediately move into this space of being overwhelmed by inspiration. And if anything, it's like, I think right now it's a little bit exaggerated for me because pretty much when the sun moved into Cancer, I got sleepy. I was so tired, and just like heavy feeling, and just very internally pointed. And which, it wasn't a bad feeling, it just was a very introverted feeling. And then Mercury moved into Cancer yesterday. I'm recording this on July 6th, 2022, and now it's like even more. It's like the emotions are there and now they're clearer than they were, but and now I can just see how many like awesome realizations have been added to what I want to tell you guys about, and like just different heart openings and different moments that I've had that just like, oh my gosh, felt so good and showed me this. It's like there's so much there. So much there. That once again, like I'm overwhelmed by the stockpile, the backlog of inspiration that I'm facing. Slash, I am so freaking grateful to know that like to know, like in my bones, in the core of my being, like there is no such thing as running out of content. When you are like on your soul's path and your soul's path wants you to share, like there is no such thing as running out of content because your soul's path goes on for eternity. So the content just generates itself. Like I feel like even in this episode, which is almost over, I think, I haven't even shared any of the backlog, only that there is a backlog. So, like the content machine is life itself. And I don't know if that helps anybody. I think it definitely helps somebody because that somebody is me. Um, this has been super helpful to talk through and to like really ground this other side perspective of I am so grateful for the river of inspiration. I was writing about it yesterday, um, which was a very Mercury and Cancer metaphor as I look back on it. But I was like, basically, it feels like Willy Wonka's chocolate river, and like his like that waterfall that's like chocolate that like goes in there, and then he's like got the little paddle boat that's like on the chocolate river. And I feel like that is this like massive, powerful river of inspiration that's flowing inside of me. And all I have is a spoon. And all I can do is like, whenever I have the energy, I go and I like get a spoonful of this chocolate out of that river and I like eat the one bite, and then maybe I'll have another bite and maybe even another bite. I'll have like maybe even a handful of bites. But like that's all I can do is only have a handful of bites, and then this whole river, this whole magical, powerful, gushing river of inspiration just sits inside me 99% of the time while I'm resting, to be rested well enough to go and dip a few bites with my little baby spoon. And it's like, I think baked into being able to see it as I'm so grateful for this avalanche of inspiration, this backlog of inspiration. It's like part of it is like making peace with how much of the massive inspiration that runs through me isn't for anybody else. It's only for me. Like I mean, I can feel it. I can feel it all. And every once in a while, I go dip my spoon in there and I share some with you guys by digesting it more consciously. But I can feel every bit of that. And there is something real inside of me that like beats myself up for not digesting more of it, not bringing more of it out. And I feel like yesterday writing about it, like it was very helpful in making peace with, even if I'm the only one that gets something out of my revelation, out of my flowing of source energy through me, if it only updates my consciousness, that is still worthwhile. That's not a waste. Like I'm over here calling it a waste that like I can only translate 1% of this beautiful inspiration and the rest gets wasted. No, it doesn't. The rest goes to updating my consciousness. The rest gets to soak into as nutrients to my soil. The more I let it be that, the more it is that. I can be grateful for whatever I face. It's all about finding the other side. I'll be back soon with more of the backlog, more of the fun stories. I'll spend the rest of my life telling them to you. Until then, though, you take such good care of yourselves, and so will I.